If you want to work in controls automation, or you currently already work in controls automation, this video is for you. So my name is Decent Tim, and I love to talk about controls automation. So today's topic is going to be about two types of non-retentive timers. So we're talking about the TON timer, which I can remember as timer on, and then we're going to talk about the TOF, timer off, T-off timer. So the way this video is going to go, we're going to have a little discussion in the beginning about how these timers work from a theoretical, practical standpoint. And then the second half of the video will show you how it actually works live in a CodeSys PLC software program. I'll show you how the timers are activated, how they work, how they count up, and all that. So let's talk about the difference between retentive and non-retentive. So it kind of sounds like retain. That's how I think about it. So if you have a non-retentive timer, what's going to happen is, so for a TON, a timer on, once it is activated, so the input goes true for the in bit or the enable bit of the timer, saying, hey, you're allowed to start counting. The TON timer will start counting up to whatever preset value you set it to. The preset is the value is going to count up to, right? And then your timer is going to count or accumulate, get a value, or maybe it's elapsed time, whatever value it is that's tracking the timing as it's counting up. Once it's done counting up, let's say you set it to 5,000 milliseconds. So it counts up to 5,000, and then it's going to stay there. Now, because a TON timer requires a true bit to activate it, when that true bit transitions from true to false, the timer gets reset. And now your accumulated value, your elapsed time value, the value that was counting up to 5,000, it goes back down to 0. So it doesn't retain the fact that it already counted up already. That's kind of the point of a non-retentive timer. Now you have retentive timers where they will function just about the same. So they'll be activated and they'll count up until a certain threshold, right? Whatever your preset value is for that timer. But let's say that bit that's activating it on the enable bit goes from true to false. The timer will still retain the fact that it counted up to 5,000, for example. It will not reset. You have to have a separate rung to reset that timer. So it has to be reset by a different instruction for that timer. So that's the difference. So both have different use cases depending what you want. If you're trying to track something that you don't want to reset all the time, you want to use a retentive timer to only reset in certain conditions. Maybe you want a button to reset, kind of like your, I think like an odometer. Do you want that to reset every time you turn the car off? No. You want to reset when you hit a reset button, for example. That's kind of the way I think about it. But that's kind of the discussion part. I'll show you guys what it looks like in CodeSys. All right, sorry, I didn't realize my video just stopped recording again. So here we go again. So we're talking about the TON timer here. So actually, let me move myself over here. I guess I'm not blocking important stuff. Okay, so the timer on my TON timer, this is the enable bit I was talking about. So this has to be a true or 1 here to get this timer started. That's what a TON timer is looking for. So when this bit transitions to true, my timer can get started. Now here, this is the preset value I was telling you about. So this is the value the counter is going to count up to. How long the timer is going to be counting for, basically, right? So here, this is 5 seconds. As you can see, 5S, 5 seconds. So this timer is going to count up to 5 seconds. This is your elapsed time. So this is just how long, this is tracking where the timer is at in its counting cycle. So when it starts, it'll be at 0. And as it counts to 5 seconds, you actually see it live counting. And then the Q is the output of the timer when it's done. So that's a timer on. Now we can have another bit here. We could call it TOF enable, and we can name it something. Timer off. Now the difference between these two, the main difference, is how these are activated. So as we discussed before, a timer on needs this bit to transition from false to true. This has to be true for this to start. Now a timer off is different. So if this is true, nothing's going to happen. A timer off is waiting for this bit to transition from true to false. So when this goes, if this is initially true and it goes false, then this timer starts. So just a reminder, when this transitions from false to true, timer on starts counting. This starts counting when this transitions from true to false. Then this starts counting, okay? So it's kind of wonky to think about sometimes. We'll still say 5 seconds. And we'll say blank here. Okay, let's see. Oh. We got to create a variable here. Okay. Now I think I should be able to hopefully run this. Okay, let's see if it let me. All right, so now we're gonna run the simulation. All right, so now I am going to start timer on enable. I'm transitioning it from false to true, which will get this timer started. And you can watch the elapsed time to see it count up in milliseconds to 5 seconds. So we will start timer on. Right. It's true now, and then we'll say start. All right, we see it's counting up. Now it's done. Now if I turn that off, let's see. You see how now it's back down to 0 milliseconds because it's a non-retentive timer. So now for this one, we will start it as true because it's okay. So we'll write this as true, and then we will say, let's see. Okay, now it's running. So now we're going to turn off this enable. And now you see, now it starts counting. Because it was true, it went false, now it starts counting. Boom. And if I make this go back to true, this timer will go back to 0. So, boom. So, hope that explains the two types of non-retentive timers, how to use, what the purpose of them are, how to use them in a PLC program.